Is Cole Palmer injured? Can Erling Haaland return to his best form? And who am I bringing in this game week? Let's talk about it all in today's team selection video. This is how we could be lining up for game week 11 in FPL. So far with the goalkeepers and defenders, no transfers have been made as of yet, and I don't think I'm going to be transferring any of my defenders or goalkeepers out this game week in particular, because when I think about the transfers I could make in my defence, it could be the case that Gabriel leaves the squad or Rico Lewis. I think everyone else I'm pretty happy with keeping. Sort of Trent is coming into some decent fixtures, especially that Southampton one coming up. Gabriel coming into some decent fixtures, so not necessarily someone I'm desperate to sell, but could be on the chopping block if Arsenal continue to disappoint. And I suppose sort of similar with Rico Lewis. You know, his minutes obviously didn't start last game week, was a really big hit, and of course the fixtures coming up aren't fantastic for Man City, and again they just aren't playing very well at the moment. And I suppose that brings us straight on to sort of their Champions League fixture against Sporting. You know, 4-1 loss, not great at all, and of course as you can see, Rico Lewis played again a full 90, similar to last week where we thought he would still play. He's played midweek, he's played 90. Is it going to be a benching for this fixture? You know, especially if you're dealing with someone like Matoma. If you're Kyle Walker, you're probably going to have an easier day than a Rico Lewis. So perhaps a benching for Rico Lewis in this fixture. In this case, you know, Robinson would come in and take his place, and Rico Lewis would drop to the bench. In terms of someone I could bring in for the defence, Nori is a popular option. It's just a little bit worrying about owning a Wolves defender. They have been really bad sort of defensively, and you know, coming at these good fixtures, they do have an increased chance of a clean sheet, but you know, I'm not too optimistic on that fact to, you know, start that sort of transition over to Nori. I'm not too comfortable with the clean sheet potential there, and I think having someone like a City or an Arsenal defender long term will probably net you more clean sheets despite the fixtures anyway. So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts initially about a transfer in and a transfer out this game week. Overall, playing who I'm playing this week is going to just have to do. Who I've got in the squad will just have to make do, because I've got bigger plans in terms of midfielders and forwards, with the likes of possibly selling Erling Haaland next week, getting in someone like Saka or Salah in the next 2 weeks. You know, there's a lot more, you know, emphasis on those transfers than a defensive one this week is my point. Sorry if that was long-winded, but yeah, that is how I'm feeling about the defence at the moment. We're going to move on up now to the midfielders, where things get a little bit more interesting. Now, this is the reason you probably clicked on today's video. Is Cole Palmer fit? Let me give you my thoughts on this situation. As you'll see, obviously, he's starting in my FPL team right now, and that's because the sources that have given us this information about Cole Palmer potentially being out for 3 weeks just aren't sources that I'm familiar with at all, which means I'm not really going to name them as reliable sources as of yet. There are some other aspects in terms of training photos and videos that he hasn't been spotted in certain ones, which obviously raises some issues and potential red flags for Cole Palmer. But for now, with the information we have, I don't think it's necessary to be selling Cole Palmer, especially when you look to next week's fixture. If he's available for that Leicester fixture, you know, you're going to want Cole Palmer, aren't you? So for me, I'm not making the transfer with Cole Palmer out anytime soon unless we get some solid information. So let's move on to the rest of the midfielders, though. The guys who are going to be supporting Cole Palmer this game. We have Mbeumo to his left there with the Bournemouth at home fixture. I do think it's a decent fixture for Brentford. I'm just hoping Mbeumo can come away with some really good returns before his fixtures start to change in the next few game weeks. Brennan Johnson, similarly to Mbeumo. I think, look, the fixture's great this week. In the next few weeks, it's kind of hit and miss with, you know, sort of looking at the future with the Southampton fixture coming up for Spurs. But yeah, for now, Brennan Johnson is going to remain in the team. McNeil, I think, is another one on the chopping block for me. I think fixtures are going to run out for Everton, and to be honest, they're not really impressing me as I thought they would do with the additions back into their side. And Morgan Rogers, I think, with Villa's fixtures coming to change, to come for the better in sort of 3 to 4 weeks, I think he can just stay in the squad. I think I've held him for that long now. If I need him, he can play. Normally gets good minutes. Of course, he did come off with a little bit of a knock in his last fixture in the Premier League. I don't think it's a big deal whatsoever. He looked visibly upset that he actually got benched by Emery. He really wanted to get back on the pitch and sort of help them back out against Spurs. Obviously, we know how that game went. It wasn't a great performance from Aston Villa as a whole. And obviously in the Champions League this week as well, disappointing for Villa yet again. Potentially someone who could be sold with the sort of recent fixtures coming up, but I feel as though if I keep him for a few more, I'll get a little bit more use out of that and not have to use a transfer on someone like Morgan Rogers. But overall, that is the midfield section of the video. Let's move up to the final section of the forwards now. Now, some big changes could be made to my forward line in FPL this game week, and it's actually not around Erling Haaland. It's mainly around Ollie Watkins. I think personally that the price tag of 9 million for Ollie Watkins isn't worth it, at least for the next 4 to 5 game weeks. I really want to be moving over to some cheaper assets in the forward line and possibly even the defence to make money for that premium midfield that I want to be building from game week 12 onwards. I'll show you how I'm going to do that after I speak about Erling Haaland, so bear with me just 1 second and let's talk about the captain, because I feel as though Brighton away from home is a decent fixture for City. I don't think Brighton defensively are that brilliant. In terms of expected goals conceded, you look at the stats, they're not fantastic, but they're not bad either. They can put up good defensive performances. And I think with a City side that is lacking a little bit of creativity and sort of, that goal threat in Erling Haaland has been very quiet this number of weeks. It seems that teams have kind of mastered almost nullifying Erling Haaland in games. So I think going forward into this fixture, why don't I just sell them? I think I've got to give them the chance. I've got to give them this fixture so then in 12 I can really assess and move forward with my team. Because look, if he scores a hat-trick in this fixture and they're going to face a Spurs side that have maybe no Van der Ven and maybe no Romero, you're probably going to want Erling Haaland for that fixture. So this is really Erling Haaland's last dance in my FPL team for a number of weeks. If the performance isn't there, he's going to be going, and I'm going to show you kind of the process of Erling Haaland leaving my FPL team right now, because look, this week's fixture is most likely going to be Matheus Cunha. I think it's a good pick. The fixtures are long term, and that's what I need in my personal FPL team, because I only have a few free transfers, and I really want to be building that to game week 12. So that's probably the transfer that I'm going to do this week, which sets me up for transfer in game week 12, where if Haaland has had a really bad game week against, a Brighton team, again, a number of performances in a row that have been really poor from City, it's now really easy to transition to sort of maybe even a threemium midfield of Saka, Palmer and Salah. But what I think would most likely happen in this week for a forward, I believe, who was I actually looking at? It may have actually been João Pedro or a Welbeck. It was actually in that forward position. I feel as though Brighton's fixtures coming up over the next few past City are actually quite nice, and I do want to own one of Danny Welbeck, João Pedro, or even Karu Matoma. So let's say for the sake of the video though that João Pedro would come in. I feel as though in game week 12 you would really be looking at possibly going Mo Salah as well. And obviously with the massive amount in the bank there, you could be cheeky and go to a Saka as well that week. But I feel as though with that Forest fixture, it's probably going to be pretty difficult to score for Bukayo Saka. So saving the hit and going into 13, that's when you probably get in a Bukayo Saka, maybe even for a Morgan Rogers or someone else in the team. But yeah, there's a number of things I could do going forward with this squad. It all really depends on this week. How are people performing? Because game week 12 is a massive structural change that will come in many people's FPL teams. Is it time to sell Erling Haaland? Is it not? I think we have to wait one more week just to see how he performs against Brighton. But that is my FPL team for game week 11. To outro every video, I like to give you guys at home a big thank you for supporting the FPL Mugs YouTube channel. Of course, if you have enjoyed today's video, please do like the video and subscribe for future FPL content and deadline streams. But that is everything for today's video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.